Hi, good morning, good afternoon to everybody. My name is Jojo Maruira from IATA, based in our Geneva office. Thank you so much for joining the webcast today, and we hope you're keeping safe and really looking forward with the discussion this morning. Before I hand you over to our subject matter expert, I would just like to highlight a few logistics for today's call. First, the session is going to be recorded. It will be shared to you together with other supporting documents like leaflets, presentation, and the question and answer from today's session and future session as well. We'll provide you a link to our website wherein you can actually find out future sessions just in case you would like to attend again or some of your colleagues have missed this session, and also the other post documentation from today's session and future sessions as well. There's a question box on the right-hand side of your screen. Please do send us any question that you might have, and we will address them as we go along. If, for some reason, due to timing, we will not be able to address all questions, be rest assured they'll be included on the document that we'll be circulating. Other is that there's also going to be polls that will be shared with you during the session. These are anonymous polls. It is be able to actually gauge what is the feeling and what is the information that we are sharing with the audience, if it's being perceived very well, if you understood the topic, and things like that. So be rest assured that these polls are anonymous. So please feel free to participate on those. So without further ado, I'll give you now to Laura Cajade. She's our head of ISS products based in our Madrid office. Over to you, Laura.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, maybe. I'm Laura Cajade. As you see in the picture, well, my role title, I'm head of IATA Settlement Services Product Management. I'm based in Madrid. I'll try not to speak very fast so you can catch on my Spanish accent. If you have any problem with the sound or anything, please don't hesitate to write it in the chat box as Jojo was suggesting. Before starting into the topics, due to legal reasons, we have to show a couple of disclaimers. Essentially, this slide is about, this is covering a lot of different companies. So any question you may have or comment you may do, it has to be something that is not revealing any competitive or strategic situation for your individual companies. IATA obviously has to be neutral in this position. So questions like, for instance, do you recommend me to do this or that, is the kind of questions that we cannot answer. We can provide services information in that regard, but this remains business decisions that belong to your respective companies. In terms of housekeeping, I'm not going really to spend much time. Most of the things have been mentioned already by my colleague. The subject of today's session has two aspects because we realize these are really hard times for the tourism sector in general. Obviously, we cover air travel. We don't cover everything related to tourism. But we wanted to address two topics. One is related to sales, which we are going to cover first, and the other second part of the webinar is going to be more on the cost side. And the idea is to provide you with information that we consider it could be relevant for you to navigate through these very difficult times for travel sector. So in this part, what we see is potential information that could be giving you some heads up or highlights of how the trends and the data we see from IATA can help you. Again, another disclaimer, these figures are based in models. So like many other institutions worldwide, they do models to try to foresee trends for the future. So you have to take it like that, like trends. And so this is not an actual number, but it can give you hits of a specific situations in certain regions. And obviously you can complement with your real knowledge because obviously you know your business and you have direct information from customers already. So the first thing we wanted to show is a general model. This is a refresh data of this model, and we cover analysis of 75 countries worldwide, as you see highlighted in this picture. And we try to foresee what's going to be the trend based on historical data of sales, but also other sources of information that complement these trends, like customer service in terms of purchasing power or risk feeling in traveling in planes due to COVID situation. So this is refreshed on a regular basis, and this was done a week ago. And essentially, there is a very strong difference in terms of what we see in uptake of travel in plane between domestic routes and international routes. Obviously, not all the countries are the same. We have very large geographies and markets, like it could be China or Canada or Brazil, that the domestic weight into the travel is going to be much bigger than other geographies. But nonetheless, still is a trend that it's quite relevant. For international travel, we don't expect the same speed of recovery as you see in the figures on the slide. Essentially, as you know, there is still a lot of travel bans, and if it's not banned, sometimes we have even quarantines, with maybe reducing the appetite to travel across borders. So the expectation for the end of the year in terms of overall worldwide domestic recovery versus what we had before the crisis is expected to be on travel by plane around 70%. And almost 40% of the international travel. The weights obviously can be slightly different depending on the geography your business is in. I would like to go a bit deeper into this analysis. This is for domestic. As you see on the left right of the screen, there is a sensitivity analysis. So far, the trend is recovering quite a lot. So that's coherent with the information I just shared. But I want also to see the split per region, because obviously, depending on your business, you're not necessarily interested in a global view. And here in the graph, you have a code color, and it shows essentially what this model is having as a trend for domestic flights as per country. So you see very different situations. In Asia mainly, and well, this is maybe a large definition of Asia, it could be debates about Russia. But in any case, all these geographies that you're seeing in green, they are recovering very well in domestic traffic. So in some cases, we are already about 70% of the levels of domestic traffic that we used to have at the beginning of the year or before the crisis. The ones that you see in yellow, the expected recovery at the end of the year, it will be slightly lower. So it will be between 40 and 75%. You see markets in North America and some in Latin America, and also essentially in Europe. And last, the ones that, even if it's domestic traffic, in some cases we are talking also about large geographical, in terms of surface, so potentially you could have more domestic flights. There are some geographies that the expectation is slightly lower in terms of recovery towards previous levels. Namely, we would mention Canada, South Africa, India, and Australia. So obviously, there is no universal formula. It will depend really on your markets. And I assume that you have already seen these trends. We wanted just to complement, because we have not only view on sales, but other sources of information, and it can give you a hint to recover sales on your side. Same thing, but for international traffic. So the model is the same. You have the sensitivity analysis on the left side of the chart. And as you see, the sales drop really, really a lot due to international travel bans that have happened during many months for several countries, and the speed of recovery. As you see, the graph on the right looks completely different from the previous one. There are, though, certain regions, Asia and Europe mainly, that the recovery of international travel is expected to be performing better than in other geographies that you are seeing in red. So overall, everything is recovering. It's more about the speed. Trying to put myself in the shoes of a travel agent, it's about how this can be packaged, which I assume again that you're doing it already, and this could be providing a complementary view of what you're seeing with your customers. Having said this, the goal is also to show you resources like this summary or the slide you're seeing now on the screen that IATA provides for free on their website. So IATA Chief Economist provides a lot of reports almost every week. There is some kind of press release with communications of data. Sometimes it's global, like the figures I'm just showing, but it's also information sometimes on regional side with deep dives in certain markets. And this map you're seeing is also something that is refreshed in real time that shows the bands. So in case you have sometimes customers that are asking you these questions, our goal here is to share with you tools that are free for, I mean, they are not charged and they are available for you. And the idea is really to complement you with this information, and no mystery. I mean, it's a partnership between airlines and agents. So obviously, both can win if this happens. So you can this map and these resources to know when the travel bans are lifted between countries. So my message here, obviously, you know your businesses, but is try to put at your disposal any resource that has for free that can complement information in real time for you to define your self-suffering so you can alleviate the situation for the agents. Logically, no mystery in this also for the airlines. So I hope this is useful. The second part, as I was mentioning, it's more on the cost side from travel agents' perspective. And obviously, there are charges that, like many companies have. I mean, that's the cost of doing business. But in this particular context, as travel has been hit so hard with the COVID-19 crisis, obviously the choices on costs are very important for any actor in the travel sector. So now we would like to launch our first poll to understand from your point of view, because we want this kind of a sanity check, what would be among the options that you're seeing on the screen. I don't know if you can launch it. Yes, you're launching it, Jojo. But what would be the concerns you have financially speaking? So really, we're talking about what you see a bit of like a higher. I think you can select several options. So I really would like to see what you're thinking. I leave it to you, Jojo, to see how many answers there are arriving, just to leave the poll open a bit longer or close it.
Yes, thank you so much. And you can choose as many as you can from this poll, please. We'll just give it a few more seconds, Laura, and I'll let you know when I'm
Sure,
closing
no,
it.
no, absolutely. That's the purpose, just to hear what you, the audience, are thinking about this and maybe learn something that we didn't think of. So that's the purpose.
The numbers is steadily growing, so I'll just wait for a few more seconds, please.
Sure, no problem. We have still enough time, so don't worry. Excellent. So for us, I think you're seeing, everybody is seeing the results on the screen, but that's precisely what we wanted to have a sanity check with you, and I think it's quite coherent. I don't know if you're still showing the poll results on the screen, Jojo?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so what I've seen is drop-off sales, it's the most important. Obviously, there are a lot of things related to cost that IATA has as our fees. Obviously, from your perspective, there are costs, and that is very legitimate. And there is less concern apparently about the acquirers holdbacks. So if you can share now my screen again instead of the poll, Jojo, please. Thank you very much. So it's quite coherent. I mean, we are seeing also agents logically suffering from this crisis. And obviously the drop of sales is massive. No mystery in this. And obviously it puts more pressure on cost structure for every actor in the industry. Acquirers holds back probably doesn't apply to all the travel agents in the sense that not all the travel agents have the same business model nor the same size. But it's something that we have observed for a few very big agents. And obviously, yes, no mystery, IATA has some fees and rules to participate in IATA accreditation services. And they require guarantees in terms of funds. So the airline can recover the value of the sales related to flights. So obviously this entitles costs for the agents and blocking money, which in terms of treasury, obviously, it's something that in this time is an extra challenge, and not all the companies are going to have the same situation. So we are happy to see that our analysis is quite aligned with your feedback, and that was precisely the point of this presentation. Before moving forward and showing how we think we can provide some ideas to help in this, we wanted just to have again a sanity check about how familiarized you are with IATA services. Because I assume it's very heterogeneous, the office. So thank you very much, Jojo, for launching the poll. So it's again a very simple survey. It's just to have a sanity check. It will be also helping me to calibrate how much in detail I go, because I know we cannot really spend hours now, and just try to go to the most important points. How is it going, Jojo?
I have a very good increase in numbers. I'm just waiting a bit.
Yeah, no, sure. It's just as I don't say this, you are seeing the results.
Thank you so much for those. Okay, I'm sharing it now.
Perfect. Okay, that gives me a good feeling. As you see, it's relatively in the middle. So I'll try to cover the best I can and highlight how this could be helpful for you, or at least our perception. And we'll check about if this is aligned with your expectations.
Laura, we just have a request here to kindly louder your voice, please.
Oh, sure. These things about webinars is always, I'll be closer to my computer. You're going to see my face very big, I assume. I hope it's better. So about IATA services for travel agents, and I'm going to assume that you don't know necessarily anything, but again, don't hesitate to jump in to ask your questions. So in essence, we have two categories of services. One is what we call TITS for short, is an acronym, which is essentially a service of identification travel actors in a standard way. And then we have what we call in IATA language accreditation services, which essentially provide supplementary services. So it's not only you can be identified, it's that you can sell flights. So To simplify very much the differences, as I said, all these services provide identification. However, in some cases, there may be some kind of actors out there that they don't sell flights, but they still need to have a unique identifier, because obviously we live in a complex world of IT with a lot of partners. We work with hotels, rail companies, cruises, car rentals, and all these things. Having a standardized way of identifying an actor in the travel industry is very valid. That's what originally TIS were designed for. But it's also obviously something that accreditation services provide, identification in a unique way. The difference between identification services and accreditation services is that you can issue airplane tickets. With an identifier, you could potentially book them, but not necessarily really issue them. And that's the big difference between the two kinds of services that IATA is providing. So this way, you know, in a very simple way, the differences between the two systems and the two services, and depending on your specific business, it may be more suitable one or the other. If we go further in the differences, and now this really applies to accreditation services, is how you fulfill the settlement, so the payment of those flights to the respective airline through IATA services. So the differences between the three services of accreditation, Go Light, Go Standard, or Go Global, is essentially how you pay and the geographical coverage. We'll see that later. But in terms of how you pay, with Go Standard and Go Global, you can use IATA Easy Pay. We'll explain this a bit later, a bit more in detail. You can pay with bank transfers, and you can pay with credit cards. You can also agree, and this is on a bilateral basis, with an airline to use other forms of payment that could be specific to your country or geography, or to your specific business models and decisions. But that's upon agreement. And the differences in the Go Light, Go Standard, and Go Global is that essentially Go Standard and Go Global, they allow you to pay you with bank transfers. And what this means is not really the technicality of using a bank transfer, is that you have a period of credit. Means that you could be selling for some days before paying all that amount due to the airlines and to IATA. In the Go Light model, it's a prepaid, it's a pay-as-you-go model. So in this regard, that's the big difference. You don't have credit. You cannot do sales for 1 month and then pay later. Okay, that's the big difference. I hope it's clear in this regard. The other difference is the concept of multi-country. So this doesn't apply to all the companies. That's also one of the differences between the accreditation services, is that some companies are international, and this has a specific accreditation model that aims to simplify the participation in IATA services, in the sense that you don't have to do financial assessments on a country basis. You do it like an international company. And last, and this is, I think, or at least that's our perception, is the need of financial securities. For Go Light, you don't need, like for this, obviously you're not issuing tickets. You don't need a financial security because there is no credit. It's a pay-as-you-go solution. So this, I think, is a major difference that could be in these times, specifically, that we have this pressure on costs. It could be very interesting for some companies. Obviously, not every company. The difference is that for Go Standard and Go Global, and there is credit, meaning that you can sell for some days and then pay to IATA and the airlines. In that case, yes, there is a financial security to provide and heavier financial assessment. So I hope it's clear. I don't know, Jojo, if there was by any chance any question on this.
Yes, we do have some question, Laura.
Please.
Accreditation services go global. Does that apply if we have as well a global assessment of financials rather than having all local bank guarantees?
Yes, that's the idea. is to simplify the process. So I'm going to pick up, imagine for illustration purposes, a very large OTA or TMC that is covering, I don't know, 10, 15 countries. The idea here is really to have just one single process that will cover all those geographies instead of doing the same thing over and over, country by country. So really it aims to simplify the burden financially and the process, because not only the money you block, is how much time and efforts it takes country by country instead of doing it once at global level. Obviously, this will apply to a fewer number of companies worldwide. But that's the
Next, Laura, is that how do we switch from Go Standard to Go Light, and how long does the process take?
in general, you could just contact directly the customer portal of IATA and do this request. I don't think it's very long. We have KPIs in general, it should be a couple of weeks. And it should be very straightforward process. We are already observing this precisely because it's a way of precisely not having financial securities. Obviously, you don't have credit, so it's a trade-off that you have to do depending on your condition and specific situation.
Thank you, Laura. Can you just please clarify that non-IATA or the Go Light can actually have IATA Easy Pay?
Yes, everybody except it. I'm talking, sorry, about accreditation services can use IATA Easy Pay. IATA Easy Pay, I'm going to explain it just afterwards. It's a short video I wanted to share with you, but in essence, it's a wallet. If you allow me the analogy with consumer brands that are very well known, commercially speaking, it's like PayPal or WeChat. And in essence, the company, instead of the consumer, is putting funds in this wallet. And when you're issuing a ticket, this money is debited in this wallet in real time. So as long as you're putting money and you're spending, obviously it's a continuous business situation. You can pay with this. It's an alternative to other services as yours.
Can you please just elaborate a bit more? Where do people actually use or apply as a TID agent?
I'm going, if you hold with me on how to, I'm going to explaining a little later. So the process of appliance is explained for both TIDs and Go Light in a bit.
Perfect. Just 1 second. So anything about IATA Easy Pay will go a bit later, right?
Yes, I'm going to do a mini video. I'm going to explain a bit further also on my side. And obviously any questions is the next line.
Just one more question on this. Does Go Light means I don't commit any fixed finance to IATA?
Exactly.
I think we just can go ahead, and then some of the questions here about payments and about IATA Easy Pay. So I think we can go forward.
Okay, so as credit card and bank transfers, I guess is quite straightforward. Everybody has this in mind. IATA Easy Pay is not necessarily the case. So I'm going to share a short video in the next slide. I hope the sound passes well.
Laura, there's no sound, but we can
It looks
definitely.
like, I don't know why.
It's okay. I can definitely give the link later on, or maybe
Okay,
we can do
well,
that.
in essence, I'm sorry for this, the technical problems when you're live. What I was saying, IATA Easy Pay is a wallet. I made this analogy for a simple explanation with PayPal or WeChat. So your business needs to create an account if you choose, obviously, this payment method. And in that case, you are putting funds in this wallet. When you're issuing a flight, then it's going to be debited in real time from that wallet. So if you have, I'm making this up, $1,000 and the flight was $200, you're going to be reduced your amount. So it's obviously you need to fund the wallet continuously depending on your sales, because if you don't have funds, you cannot issue the ticket. But the idea is that you have these options. So you're putting money, you're spending money. That's why we want to express as a pay-as-you-go. The other option also, as I said, is you can use consumer credit cards, and this is a pass-through. IATA or you don't see the money. This goes directly from the customer to the airline, and that could be also working for the Go Light accreditation. You have the two options. Sorry for the video, but if you have more questions about EasyPay, I'll be glad now to answer them.
Yes, just a few seconds. For example, it's possible IATA take money directly from over banks on IATA
Uh,
EasyPay.
Instead of doing and using the wallet, doing a direct debit is an option, but is not available for Go Light. It's available for Go Standard and Go Global, and not necessarily in all the countries in the world, because that's also depending on what the banks allow or not in some geographies. So the option exists, but not in Go Light. So it means that you will need to have financial security, which in our perception, for some business now in this specific context, that's something that is potentially a cost, because you have to do the process and spend time with banks. But obviously you're blocking part of your own treasury. So that's why we wanted to highlight Go Light in this regard. Obviously, this doesn't apply to all businesses, and it's also potentially a temporary situation. I mean, accreditation is not static. You could go now to Go Light if you are already accredited in IATA, and then change 1 year from now or whenever you need it. And if you are new, obviously, maybe it's better to start with Go Light and see how it goes.
Laura, what is IATA doing in terms of the airlines not all accepting IATA EasyPay?
Well, obviously, that's like the other form of payments. That's a decision that IATA cannot take. IATA, and probably I'm going to address the elephant in the room. Maybe I know IATA, and you all know we represent the interests of the airlines. But nonetheless, we cannot take side with a specific commercial policy. We represent all of them, and this is about the anti-competition or antitrust situation. Obviously, we have invested in this. The airlines have invested in EasyPay. If exceptionally there are some airlines that, and it's true, they don't necessarily accept EasyPay, that's a commercial decision. In the same way, sometimes they don't accept certain payment methods. It's not the majority. It could be obviously that in your specific market, a carrier is very significant, and that's an issue. The alternative obviously would be using credit cards for the Go Light, or standard bank transfers for the other accreditation models. I hope it answers the question.
Yes, thank you so much. Can we go one slide back, please, regarding the accreditation?
Yeah, sure.
Good. Can we just please differentiate what is the cost involved for Go Light, Go Standard, and Go Global?
It comes a bit later, the prices. So if
Okay.
you hold on with me, we'll address this in a second.
And is the Go Global regional, or if I apply for Go Global, I can be all over the world
No,
in
all
terms of?
over the world, literally. So it could be from, I don't know, China to Peru. So really no restriction in there.
Thank you. Regarding Go Light, what is the position with ADMs and ACMs and refunds? Is there any difference compared to being Go Standard?
I'm not sure I fully grasp. I mean, obviously, all accreditations, all of them, they have to manage this. I mean, the capability. So the refunds, they are related to commercial policies that are defined for the airlines, I mean, by the airlines. And IATA just put the technical means to establish this communication in terms of refunds, ADMs, or ACMs. However, I mean, there is no restriction. Obviously, refunds can be executed in Go Light accreditation. Like you could be also benefiting from sales incentives in Go Light accreditation, or issuing an ACM because there is some dispute or something with an airline. So in this regard, there is absolutely no discrimination whatsoever because you are go live. In fact, go live in a very stereotyped or simplified way, the idea is that you have a pay-as-you-go model. So it could be ideal for companies that are starting up selling because obviously it's a lighter model, financially speaking. But obviously it has to offer the basic exchanges or mechanisms to solve disputes or differences with airlines. In this regard, is exactly the same.
Lara, there's a very interesting question here. Can I be Go Light and Go Standard at the same time?
If it's the same company, no. If you have two different companies, you could choose one is Go Live and one is Go Standard. Yes. Um, and that's also how you organize the activity. And again, these are business decisions. What I can comment is that we see different ways of organizing from the data we receive on IATA. So there are companies that, for instance, they centralize certain financial responsibilities. And I'm talking about companies who have, for instance, a lot of branches. They centralize certain tasks in the head office and they don't want to give certain responsibility to the branches. There are others that they want to do it. Obviously, we cannot take sides on this, that we want to provide a model that suits both cases.
Lara, after the session, are we going to be able to provide the agents like steps on how to apply for the accreditation and also for
Yes.
IATA Easy Pay, right?
Yeah, it's in the videos. Unfortunately, you couldn't see the EasyPay one, but I'm going to go through this in a bit. The
And
pricing, the application process, if it's what you need.
okay, another question here is that um, how much is the financial security, um, I guess for Go Standard?
Uh, I'm not sure of exactly what you're referring to. If it's what's your cost with your bank, that's a very heterogeneous answer. It will depend on a lot of factors like countries, economical situation of the countries, etc., etc. The way we request the money for deposits for IATA for Go Standard and Go Light is based essentially on two factors in a very simplified way. Is how much you sell. Obviously, the more you sell and the more credit you have, there is, from the airline's perspective, more risk of in terms of not recovering those funds. And obviously, that's their business, and they want to protect it. And the other would be the healthy, financially speaking, the healthy situation you have. It's like when you go to the bank to ask for money, and they are going to assess the likelihood you have as a person to repay your debt is the same. So based on these two rules, which obviously are not the same for all the companies, there are amounts that are going to be determined. Also, that's assuming that you're selling all that amount with bank transfer, which you have credit. Because even if you're Go Standard or Go Global, if you pay with credit cards or with Easy Pay more than with bank transfer, you reduce the amount of risk for the airlines. So obviously, the deposits and the financial securities that are going to be requested from you are going to be smaller. So that's why I'm saying it's a bit difficult to answer with a concrete number because there are several factors that depend on it. And
Lara, if it's
again,
okay, I'm sorry.
sorry. No,
That's
it's
okay.
okay. I was
Go ahead.
just going to say that in our thinking process for some companies, that's why we thought that Go Live now, because it doesn't require financial securities, would be interesting for you to free up treasury in the short term. And also in terms that you don't have to allocate time. It's just really once you are set up, it's just you sell, you pay, you sell, you pay.
Clara,
Sorry,
I would like to take three more questions here, then we can move forward and we address the rest of the questions. So IATA Easy Pay, is it a solution if an airline doesn't take credit card payment?
it could be, yes, but I doubt very much the airlines don't take credit card. I don't have notice of this. If this happens, it's the first time I heard.
Next question, Lara, is that I would like to switch from Go Standard to Go Light. Does it mean I need to apply for ticketing authority again from each of the airline?
Not to my knowledge, and in essence, it's a relatively straightforward process because, in essence, obviously, you have had more exigent financial conditions versus the airlines to ensure their funds. So you move to a kind of less risky situation because it's a pay-as-you-go. It's a pre-funded situation. So you would get back your financial securities, and there is no cost in that.
We have some pressing questions here. Some of the travel agents on the call are actually have some deadlines in terms of providing their financial securities, and they would like to switch to Go Light. But Go
Mhm.
Light is taking a few weeks to apply. Is this the case?
The objective we have to process end-to-end Go Light requests is 2 weeks. And then in parallel, we have, if you use Easy Pay, which is an option because you can always use credit cards, it's a separate process that take around another 2 weeks, but they are not the same 2 weeks. They are a bit different. So it could be a bit over 2 weeks the total too. Obviously, we cannot go faster if we don't have all the documentation. So I'm assuming a happy flow where all the documentation is fastly available for IATA. For the time being, I know that sometimes they have been in some geographies some delays. There is no mystery. The crisis is not only affecting US agents or airlines, but it's also affecting IATA. So in this regard, IATA is also facing some challenges in this regard. But for the time being, I haven't heard something that is dramatic or anything. Uh, it should be 2 to 3 weeks, the full process. For a new Go Light, the Go Standard to Go Light, if it's your case, it should be easier.
One last question on this side for now is that does IATA earn any commission on IATA EasyPay?
Commissions, I don't know if you are aware, but IATA BSP, the Settlement Services for Passenger Sales, is a service that, in IATA perspective, towards the airlines, we do it in a cost recovery model. So airlines, what they pursue is that IATA is more productive year on year, and we produce it at the best cost possible. So it is not about commissions. In fact, what we are really trying always to do is to make it more efficient to process all this for airlines. And obviously, travel agents are partners in this, and we want that the process works well for them. But it's not, IATA is a trade organization in this regard. Obviously, we need to pay our staff. No secret in there. We need to have fees to cover those costs. But it's not like the mechanic of a commercial company that you need to have markups and sales or shareholders because you have dividends at the end of the year. It's a completely different business model, IATA.
Thank you so much. We can go ahead, Laura. We have a lot of questions and we'll go back to them as we go along later. Thank you.
Okay. So so now I'll try to answer how to apply. So if your business model does not require to issue flight tickets and sell them, and you need just identification because it's important for you because you're a cruise company or it's related to your partnership with hotels or car rentals, your product is TITS. TITS, as I said, is an acronym. It stands for Travel Industry Designator Services. This could be very relevant to identify you, and it has kind of also the stamp of IATA in terms of agreement and recognition. In terms of how to apply for this, so this is more administrative. It's not the value for you, it's really how to do it if you feel this is the answer for you. If you're completely new, you have to create an account for what we call IATA Customer Portal. Once you create the account, you have to request this service of travel industry services. And here on the right, you're seeing some documentation that you have to provide us. In a very short and simplified way, what IATA is wanting to ensure is that you're a legal company and you can prove it. So you have your entity legally identified in your respective country, and there are some proofs that are required from this, including letters from other companies that accompany your request. But in essence, it's just to identify this. That's the process. It should be relatively straightforward. And about the pricing, and we'll go back to this again, TIS historically had a relatively small annual fee that is for free as from September this year. So this service, if this is for you, free of charge, simple application, and it can be straightforward, very fast. This was a pending question, so I don't know, Jojo, if you have more questions on this.
No, so far so good. Thank you so much.
Okay. So then, if you choose to go to IATA accreditation, what we believe, independently of the advantage of one model versus the other, we think it's an advantage for several things. The first thing is that even if maybe you don't feel it that way, but many actors in the travel industry, like hotels or things like that, they use IATA risk management for airlines as a proof of financial health of your agencies. So when you're accredited, it's kind of another company or organization in this case is proving that this company is financially healthy. So all the travel suppliers that you may have, in general, they trust IATA accreditation indirectly, even if they don't use it because IATA is for flights. In this regard, there is this proof of solvency, if you want, which I understand from your perspective, you see it slightly different, but that's why we think it's important, because you're proving that you're a serious and solid business. Obviously, the other advantage is that we, in general, we have a very large geographical footprint, except of United States and some other countries, which in size of flight sales are smaller. In general, we have a global footprint, which allows to connect you with many airlines. In the settlement services of IATA for passenger sales, we have over 400 airlines today. It can change due to COVID crisis, but my message is that we have really a very large set of airlines worldwide, and it's exactly the same process. So you don't have to have a specific process. It's a single agreement for all of them. Obviously, you can do commercial agreements on top because you have sales incentives or things like that, and this is bilateral. IATA just put capabilities. This is up to you and the airlines. We don't intervene in this. But again, it's in the same process potentially. So what we hope is that in terms, again, of alleviating financial back office costs, the fact of having a single process worldwide for airlines, not for other travel actors, it's simplified. It's a unique process for you. It doesn't matter if you're selling with one airline or the other, or in one country or the other, if you're in several ones. And last, we have what we call an IATA ID card, which essentially gives you access to certain offers, specific offers for travel. You have to apply for this. This is not given by default, but nonetheless, we believe it could be an advantage for you as an agent. So if we really put the attention on go live, and this goes back to the main things that we are observing as pain points in terms of financial costs for agents, which again is not universal. Maybe you feel identified, maybe not. But what we see advantages for go live, whether you're already an existing agent or you're new, I mean, you haven't worked with IATA before, is what I said first, worldwide access to flight sales with the majority of major carriers in those worldwide again. No financial securities. So it's not only that you don't block funds for your treasury, it's also that you don't have to spend time looking for them and having the administrative time and documentation that goes with it with your banks. So it's more straightforward. You have a pay-as-you-go solution. You have two options in Go Light. So it's really, you can allocate how much you want to put in this, because it's really when you sell, you pay. So you don't necessarily have to have big amounts of money, and you can use Easy Pay that we've explained briefly for just credit cards, the consumer credit cards I'm referring here. And last, as I said, it's a single process. And yes, it works for payments to airlines, but it's also working for refunds. It's exactly the same process. And if you have agreed commercially with an airline, signed sales incentives, IATA provides services and incentives that include this in the same process. So it's netted. So you have sales, refunds, and incentives, and it's calculated the additional subtractions, and it's netted. So we think in these times, this alleviates. Obviously, it doesn't offset the problem of sales. That's a major issue in the industry. But nonetheless, it could be either if you're new as an accreditation IATA, or you are already accredited, this could be a temporary solution for you guys. These are the official prices for TITS, as I said, free of charge as from September. And then for Go Standard, Go Light, and Go Global, you have different fees. However, because yes, we have to pay our bills in IATA. So in this regard, there's no secret. We have to invoice for this. We have to pay also the organization. But we realize also that we need to do something to help agents in this time, because in the end, we defend the airline industry and your key partners to sell. You represent a big percentage of sales for the airline, so it's really a partnership. So if you want to be TITS to Go Light this year, I mean, TITS, if you're completely new, if you want to apply for TITS, is free of charge. If you're today TITS and you want to apply to Go Light, until the end of the year is fully free of charge. If you are new Go Light, we give you a discount. We need still to invoice partially the fees that IATA normally has. And I didn't put in the slide, but it was a question asked previously. What happens if you are Go Standard and you want to be Go Light? There is no charge for that. It's free of charge, this process. So I hope again that even if it's maybe not as big as obviously the sales problem, which is the most urgent, as you were answering yourselves today, this could be also helpful. And again, it could be temporary for some months, and then and we all hope this will improve in the coming months, you could change in the future to Go Standard. So do you have questions on this? Because it was also questions on pricing before.
No, basically, but I have a lot of questions on IATA EasyPay.
Oh, okay, but shoot.
So, for example, is that will I continue to have access to the funds available on IATA EasyPay if I haven't used it yet?
It's a deposit. I mean, if I can make the analogy without entering in legal specificities, if you don't sell a flight, the money is yours. It's not IATA's money or anything. It's simply that it's blocked in a wallet to ensure that you have the funds to cover those sales in terms of airlines' perspective, because they want to recover, obviously, the value of those sales is their service.
Next question, Laura, is that do we have a list of countries where Go Light is currently available?
Yes, we
Or is it
have.
already
It's a
available
long
on the
list, so I'm not going to give it, but we can provide it to Giorgio, and it will be in the summary as a resource. It's not 100% of IATA geography, but it covers today, if I'm not mistaken, around 90% of VSP sales worldwide. So it's really a quite large footprint, but not
Thank you,
100%.
Laura. Is it possible for a Go Light agent to go on default?
Well, if you don't fund the wallet, you wouldn't be able to sell if you use Easy Pay. So you cannot, it's not really default, it's simply you cannot do your business, you cannot sell flights. I mean, flights, again, you obviously have other things that you sell. If you use consumer credit cards, this will never happen. because in fact the fault is not really from the agent, it's the consumer that maybe didn't have funds. That is like when an airline is selling in their web channel, and sometimes there are problems with credit card payments, but you shouldn't be in default. You could
Thank,
be in agreement commercially or not with an airline, but that's a commercial agreement. It's not really that you are kind of banned or in a blacklist, if I can express it this way.
for IATA EasyPay, how fast will the money receive on my wallet?
In general, that depends on the banking structure in your respective countries. So banking infrastructure worldwide is heterogeneous. And some countries is almost real time bank transfers between, because in the end is funding a wallet is putting, technically, I mean, you don't say it, but it's going to move that funds that you own into another bank account. So in some countries, this is real time. In some countries, this may take a couple of days. So yes, the things with wallet is that you have to pay attention to foresee how much sales you're going to do, because if you don't have enough funds in your wallet, you may be shortfalling if it takes a lot of time in your country to fund the wallet. So you have to be a bit structured and disciplined organizing this. If it takes 2 days, obviously you have to have some kind of forecast of how much you expect to sell to ensure you have the funds in EasyPay. Again, if you were using credit cards, it's a pay as you go. You use a consumer credit card, nothing to worry about in this.
Okay, thank you so much. 1 second. Just going through
Yes,
the question. Go light.
yes.
Regarding credit card, can an agency card be used or must the airline approve?
The agent cards have to be in agreement. It's a commercial agreement bilaterally between the agent and the airline. So there is a process. IATA, we provide capabilities to facilitate the process. That is a bilateral commercial agreement.
Lara, there's a question here for a new travel agency entering Go Light. Once my
Yeah.
Go Light application has been approved, what's the next step? Do I approach the GDS and airlines to request for facilities and ticketing authority, please?
In general, I think you have to have GDS contracts even before, if I'm not mistaken. But in any case, yes, you have to develop this. Obviously, the access somehow is easier because IATA, and I know from your perspective it's a bit of a burden, that this process gives certainty or security to the airlines that they are going to recover their funds. So you're already starting from a better position because there is this kind of insurance that is provided by the process, but you have to develop some commercial agreements on principle.
And do we know if Global is available across the markets already? And do we have a list of that?
Yes, I mean, as it is per its name, it's globally available. It's not that we are rolling out country by country or something. So you can already apply. It's quite recent, the capability of applying this in IATA.
Going back to IATA EasyPay, Laura, is there any
Yes.
minimum deposit on the amount I need to deposit on IATA EasyPay wallet?
No, I mean, I'm going to make two extreme stereotypes. If you're selling in a domestic market, essentially domestic flights, and it's a market, economically speaking, with a lower GDPs, that probably the average price of flights are lower, maybe with a smaller amount, you're good. But if, on the contrary, you're selling in a more expensive country, I'm talking from the GDP per capita point of view, the flights are more expensive in general, but on top of that, you're selling long distance flights, which today we know is less likely. You probably need to foresee to put bigger numbers in your wallet. So it's a very heterogeneous answer. It will depend really a lot on your type of business. But don't put $1,000. I mean, it's kind of it will go very fast. You spend them, hopefully. In the good sense, it means that you're selling. Don't misunderstand me.
Is there any promotion from Go Light to Go Standard?
No, not really today, because the trends we are observing, and that was the initial part of how IATA can help in this situation, because obviously we don't control the customer demand, is in our part. And what we are seeing is trends is the other way around. We haven't seen this kind of demand. So many agencies like airlines, and by the way, we have also asked for deposits for airlines to ensure the liquidity goes both ways. But we haven't seen that case. Sorry for that. By the way, if your Go Light is not a promotion, but if you check these fees, you don't pay the full fees. You pay the difference because you have already paid. So imagine if you take the first line of application and registration fees, if you have paid already 250, you wouldn't pay the 1500. You would pay 1250. Okay, so this is subtracted. It's not maybe considered as a promotion, which I agree, but you don't pay from scratch. We consider that you have already paid something.
Okay, thank you so much. We can move forward. There's a lot of more questions here, but we'll definitely go back on them.
Okay, so the question is, because we wanted again to have a sanity check, what we observe is that also agents are suffering from this. Obviously, it's a critical partnership for agents and airlines. And we wanted to see if we had assessed this properly in our obviously little part of the world, because we, as I said, we don't control consumer demand. But if this kind of promotion and orientation to go live because you don't have financial securities, it could be really helpful or not. So it's kind of a sanity check, and if you can launch the poll and we have, feel free. I mean, there is obviously no judgment. And also in all transparency, I said that we need to cover our costs, and obviously we are an airline trade association, but nonetheless, we see agents as a critical partnership to make this go back to normal. I don't know if you launched the poll, Jojo.
And sorry.
No, it's okay. Don't worry. Thank you. We really like to hear your opinion on this. How's it going, Jojo?
Well, it's still increasing very fast, so just wait for a few more
Okay,
seconds,
excellent.
please.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much. I see you're sharing the results. Well, I see the second option is the utility on our tiny part of the world, but it's still the biggest problem remains in sales. So it's also aligned with the expectations. As I said, we wanted just to contribute in what we can, and I go back to the sales parts I was mentioning in the beginning. Obviously, you know your businesses and you have feedback directly from your own customers. But if the resources available for free of IATA can help you, it's a win-win situation. Again, no secret here. It helps you and it helps the airlines. So hopefully we can do here. But In this regard also, in the sources, I am not sure I mentioned this, but in this analysis, we have also trackers of consumer demands. And again, it's complementary. So if it's helpful, don't hesitate to use it. Thanks for this honest feedback. It's also feedback for us. And the last was another video for how to apply to Go Live. So I may be hesitating to play if we have the sound issue as before, but I think I can play it and give you some little explanation verbally. Just a comment. The customer portal has been revamped, so the look and feel is slightly different from what you see, but the mechanism of what I'm going to explain is the same. Okay. So in essence, if you're completely new, the case, the first thing that you are going to need to do is to create an account in our customer portal. So you're seeing on the screen the URL. This is something that you can access from our our IATA.org website. So in this process, you have to create a login and a password. Obviously, there is some, as you see, like Apple or these companies, long conditions and terms, and you provide your contact details. But this is really about creating an account. This is not starting the process. Once this is done, you receive your credential confirmations with an email, and it's a sanity check just to ensure the email you provided was valid and accurate, because as we need to ensure that you're a legal entity. Obviously, you create a new password, and then you can start your process. Well, you verify all the data is correct, but then is when you start the process. And this is what is shown now in this screen. There is a section which is related to accreditation. Either you're new or you want to change. And this applies also for TITS, by the way. And then you start the process. And essentially, the process is going to ask you for different legal documents. The faster you are, the faster we can be. If for some reason you are taking time, obviously we cannot control that part. But obviously the part that's on us is the figures I was giving you about. It should be for Go Live roughly 2 weeks. So I hope it's clear in this regard. It's a bit lengthy. Again, it's an administrative process that tries to ensure that verify that your company exists legally. And I hope it was clear. For us, that was the objective of today. We really hope you that you stay with us this long, and really thank you for your questions. We are in this together in the sense that this is a crisis impacting all the travel sector. And obviously we cannot solve the problem of customer demand on our own. We lobby to recover confidence of consumers. But in our little part of the world, what we wanted is to assess based on the feedback or the trends we see and provide you with short-term things that could be maybe alleviating a little part of the cost, which is related to IATA. So nothing else for me, unless you have more questions that I will be glad really to answer.
Yes, Laura, just a quick, can we go back to the part where we mentioned or the IATA accreditation and TIDS, please? Because there still seems to have a confusion regarding when IATA ACPay is applicable. So basically, IATA ACPay is applicable from Go Light, Go Standard, and Go Global.
Yes. In fact, is what I said. The big difference between Go Light and the other two is that you don't have credit. It's a pay as you go. You can sell if you have the funds. These funds are either put in an EasyPay account, or either they are recovered directly from the consumer credit card. The EasyPay, in the case of Go Standard or Go Global, plays also another role. And it's linked to what I was saying. Someone was asking, how do you calculate the financial security? The financial security is exactly the same that when you go to a bank to ask for a loan to pay your house. So they're going to assess how much cash do you need. Obviously, the more cash you put on the table, the less is going to be the cost of the loan. And they are going to assess, because you have a payroll or an income because of your job, how likely you are to pay or not to pay. So this is what is going to determine. So the role of EasyPay for Go Standard and Go Live is that you reduce your credit. So in essence, if you are Go Standard and Go Global and you use EasyPay, you can reduce your financial securities because they are prepaid. So the risk is lower for the airline's perspective. I hope it clarified.
Yes, there are some interesting question here.
Sure,
One
sure.
second. Is PCI DSS certification required for Go Light?
If you use credit cards, I think is the case is yes. I have a doubt now, but I'll check it and I'll put it in the FAQ for you. That is not necessarily 100% of the countries. IATA can help with it. Obviously, it's a choice again, huh? Because this is really unrelated to IATA. This is something that comes from the credit card schemes as a way of ensuring risk management for their own services. So it's really something that is the natural evolution of credit cards, and we are just transposing what credit card schemes are requiring and the legislation in those countries.
Laura, I'm a current leads agent, but to go live, it seems like I have to prove my existence again. Is this the
Because
case?
if your go standard and you go to go light, no.
But from TIDS to go light.
Sorry. I am not sure. I mean, we can obviously recover certain things in the process, but there are maybe subtle differences. I have to check exactly because TITS is not the portfolio I manage. I manage BSP, but I will check that. I think it should be lighter because indeed we know you already as a company.
And Laura, regarding Go Light, it seems like I'm a very new travel agency, like 6 months. I don't fit on the criteria, but I do have experiences. So does it mean that I'll not be able to apply for Go Light?
Yes, you can apply for Go Live, definitely.
But it says, just mentioning here that the requirement is the 2 years of existence of the travel agency.
Oh, sorry, then you are catching me in a detail. I'll check that for you again and I'll put it in the FAQs. I thought you could just, so sorry for that.
Okay, just 1 second. I Our travel agency got defaulted a few years ago. Can we apply for Go Light?
Yes. There are sometimes defaults that are obviously linked to the economical situation, and I don't think no one punish everybody forever in this regard. Or so yes, if you're a solid business, serious business, there's no reason why you shouldn't.
Okay. We also received some questions here regarding documentation. We will try not only on the supporting documents like the presentation, FAQ, plus the recording of the session, but we'll also try to find for you links to specifically apply for TIDS, Go
Sure.
Live, Go Standard, so to be easy for you.
Um, I go again back. I know it maybe not the more straightforward process, but if you're completely new, before getting that, you have to create the account in the IATA customer portal. So it's first step, create the account. Second, apply for Go Live, sorry, or TITS.
Laura, can you answer this? How does the CRS capping work for Go Light?
CRS.
I think it's a GDS. It's another term for GDS.
Sorry, that's the first time I hear it. I don't know what you refer to capping from the GDS. GDSs are supporting EasyPay payment, if this is what you're referring. And accreditation is independent of the GDS you're working with. I have no news that there should be a capping or anything. If you can elaborate further, maybe I can help you better because I feel it's a bit vague, the answer, most likely.
Yes, so for that person, can you please clarify further? That would be great. And again, can you just please differentiate TIDS and GoLite. TIDS cannot issue tickets, right?
No.
And GoLite is a form of accreditation service.
Yes.
Just 1 second. Is there a possibility to have accreditation for 2 years instead of 1 year in the future?
I don't think there is any limit in the duration of accreditation as long as your business is healthy and solid. You can be forever with us. Glad for that. And the airlines will be glad for sure. It's a win-win situation. You're key partners to it.
And again, can you just elaborate regarding TIDS having no access to ticketing, please?
In essence, from IATA perspective, a TID agent cannot issue tickets through IATA. If you have some external agreement bilateral with an airline, maybe you have a different thing, but this is completely outside from IATA. So IATA doesn't support ticket issuance for TIDs, only for accredited agents.
Thank you so much, Laura.
From field perspective, this is from IATA services perspective.
Thank you. We have a bank guarantee in IATA. We can still use IATA EasyPay when we reach our RHC amount, right?
That's also another function of EasyPay for Go Global and Go Standard is if you reach your remittance holding capacity, you have to pay either with credit card or with IATA EasyPay, or you could advance settlement to avoid reaching the remitting holding capacity. That's, I assume, a very specific question from an existing agent.
Mommy.
Oh, look at that. That was super cute.
Oh, yeah, sorry, somebody is
No,
hungry.
don't apologize. Today with so many webinars and meetings online, no issue.
Can you
We all
just give
have
us
that.
some, thank you, Lara. Can you just give us
No
more
problem.
idea what are the services we can avail being part of the TIDS services?
When you mean from IATA perspective, obviously, this is just one service of the portfolio of IATA. So when you're TIS or when you're accredited, you can have access. Sometimes it has a charge, by the way, those services of the full portfolio of IATA that is related to travel agents. So very simplified view, you have ID cards that I was mentioning. These are the cards that you have to request and give you discounts and special offers as travel agent of IATA network. But then you could have things like training, or you could have data services, but these come with a price and no secret or in this. So I don't know if you're referring to this. Obviously, in IATA website, as I was saying, we have also free of charge services because IATA representing the interest of the airlines, we divulgate things like I was presenting the sales trends. This is something we put also available because we want to help the airlines to recover, and no secret in this.
Laura, another interesting question here. For the applications for GoLite and other services, do we need to translate local languages to English?
Oh, that's a detail. I don't think so, to my understanding, that you can provide because we work with, I think, 16 different languages. But I'll double check that just to be sure to put it in the FAQ.
Thank you. We also receive a few questions here regarding pending IATA EasyPay applications.
Yes.
Is it, sorry, just from my understanding, is it somehow can be controlled by IATA or not really?
The EasyPay or the Go Live, sorry.
No, sorry, I think it's IATA EasyPay wallet
Okay.
application.
EasyPay, there are three partners in three parties involved. Yourself. So the fastest you provide documentation, the fastest we can work. IATA. We have objectives to deliver these services in a maximum of time to ensure that it's reasonable and it makes sense business-wise. But we have partners that we work with that are the providers of the wallets. IATA is not an IT company. So the three have to work together. We have objectives, I was saying, to open a wallet in 2 weeks, end to end. That's the ambition. We have had cases which is not the case, and we have worked to improve that. But again, we control our part, and obviously we work with these partners, and also we need your part to be working as the third actor there. And
And
if you
can I,
obviously you can escalate it to our customer service.
because so can they do that if the application's already been a few weeks already, or even almost 8 weeks? Can they ask
Okay.
customer portal to actually maybe escalate the process?
Yeah, sure. Definitely do.
Okay.
I apologize for that.
So for those that have requested here regarding some delays on your IATA EasyPay application, if you can please maybe log a request on IATA customer portal and
Yeah.
provide as many details as possible so that they can help you follow up on these applications.
Okay. Thank you very much for the feedback.
Okay. Good. We have, I think, some repeating questions here, and again, it's also some specific questions that we cannot ask during the session, but we'll definitely address it during the FAQ or maybe contact you directly for some of the answers to your questions.
Yes.
Thank you for your time and give us a day or two to actually process all these questions so that we'll be able to get back to you with um, more concise and more information regarding your requests. Good. And again, Laura, if they have more questions regarding all of this that you have mentioned, who they can contact.
The official channel should be through the customer portal, because obviously as we cover a worldwide operation 24/7, we need to have a lot of people behind, and also with the different languages. Obviously, if you have a specific question, I will reply in this FAQ to Jojo, but the most efficient way is really to go through the customer portal.
Good, thank you so much. And we've also been receiving again queries regarding the documentation. It will
Yes,
be on the website. You will provide you
yes.
with a link on that so that you'll be able to access them as you need. And please feel free to share the next webcast to your colleagues or to yourself. As again, if you're more than welcome to attend future sessions. So thank you
Thank you
so
very
much
much.
for your time. Thank you, Laura, for today, and have a good day to
Thank you.
everybody.
Good day. Bye bye.